Hello everybody and welcome to this week's bonus podcast. I'm Michael.
I'm Gemma.
And this week we are talking about Stephen Reid, because everyone's talking about Stephen Reid, aren't they? And if we're not talking about him now, I don't know when we're going to.
He's
because
the boy of the moment.
feels like his days might be numbered. We'll have to see. Sorry, Gemma, I told you to rate this to you, but your beloved Stephen may well be counting down the days. Well, maybe hours. Until his
I don't think he's got more than an hour left.
Maybe not.
In the world of Coronation Street.
No, it's currently Thursday. There's one day until the end of Super Soap Week. It's kind of looking like he might not make that out of it in one piece. I don't know whether he's going to die. Don't know whether he's going to escape. Don't know whether he's going to get arrested.
Well,
my money's on dying.
He lives forever in my heart.
Yeah, exactly. And we thought that we would have a bit of a chat today about who he should have killed. Because he's got a couple of bodies under the belt.
Three.
Yeah, which is Teddy and Leo and Rufus.
Yes.
But
so much
can he
potential.
have more? There is still the possibility of more this week, isn't there? You know, we've got one more day left. There's an awful lot of chat going around the internet about the fact that he may well have one more victim to come. So, but we're going to look at... We don't know, for sure.
We know who the suspects are.
Yes.
Not suspects, the
candidates, the hot favourites for Stephen to kill. So we're not going to be talking about those
We're not going to be talking about Tim.
Because we don't want this to be completely out of date within 24 hours.
Because Tim's dead.
No, Tim is not dead. Tim's going to be fine.
To me. I'm not going to be talking about Rita, Jenny, Sarah, Michael,
Carla, Peter. Any of those, even though some are very
Audrey.
Unlikely, are not viable suspects.
They've been fingered
not viable
by the
for
show
long list.
as possible candidates for death.
So everybody's talked about those. So I thought it'd be fun to see,
we want to do something different.
Who else could or should Stephen have bumped off. At some point, it doesn't have to be now. He hasn't got much. He's quite busy at the moment. Yeah, a bit of rewriting history, so it's a little bit of imagination time. But we're going to say, well, what stories might we have liked, and who might we have liked to have seen come to a sticky end? The format that we're going to be using today will be something that, if you're a patron of ours, Bistro tier and above, you'll know all about, because this is what we do on a monthly basis on Patreon. We take a topic, and then Gemma and I both come up with our individual top fives, and we count them down. I do my five, you do your five, and so on until we reach our one. Mostly we do that.
Sometimes we do a joint one where we come up with a topic that's a bit more limited, and then we hash it out together and have an argument until Michael agrees with me.
That's often how it goes.
And then we come up with a joint top five.
For example, we did a top 5 Gail's husbands. Yeah. And there's only so many of those, and we thought if we come up with our own list, it's going to be pretty boring. So we came up with one together. So today we have got the whole of Coronation Street cast, which is quite big. And we're going to be thinking about and which 5 would be most like Stephen to have killed at some point in the last 12 months.
And the other rule is that we don't know what the other person has picked.
Oh yeah, that's the usual rule for patrons. So still the rule today. I've got no idea what's on Gemma's list. She doesn't know what's on mine. No. We always have our suspicions. And
sometimes it's more obvious.
Sometimes it's more obvious than others. Sometimes we're in complete agreement and we go, oh, we've got the same ones. And sometimes we're completely wildly different. So we'll just have to see. Yeah. So as well as saying who we'd want Stephen to kill off today, we've also decided to come up with some stories about how he might have done it. Yeah. So there's a little bit of imagination involved in there. It's always fun to do these.
Even if you're driving, close your eyes and let us bring you... Don't really do this if you're driving. Let us bring you to a magical place of Coronation Street of the imagination, where anything we say can happen, and we don't care about things like people's contracts or whether or not they might be upset to be cut from the show. This isn't personal. It's not about anybody, individual actors.
It's about
we love everybody on the show, but we might have selected some people, characters, depending on certain characteristics.
Yeah. How did you find this easy to come up with a list?
Yeah, I did. So go on.
And did you mostly go with characters that would be kind of interesting storyline wise for Stephen to have bumped off, or are you just trying to get rid of some characters that you think are past their sell by date perhaps, or just ones that you kind of would like to get rid of?
Well, I thought to myself, what would be the purpose of me to pick certain characters? And I thought, in general, just for the excitingness of getting rid of somebody who might be popular.
Yes.
Don't know if I ended up doing that in the end.
To
remove a boring or unpopular character, or maybe just a character I don't like, because I don't think they've killed off Tim. And I think that was a big mistake. So I think they owe me a favour. Right? So I've suggested some people that I might like to get rid of. And again, I'm not in charge. I don't hate the actors. This isn't personal. It's all just a big joke. Nobody get upset. I'm not in charge of anything. My opinions don't count. It's all just for fun.
Yeah.
Well, with that said, we're going to be talking about death.
Yeah, and kind of probably dissing some current characters as well.
Maybe.
Who we don't particularly
But there's
like.
still time, as long as they're not
Everybody's
dead.
got characters they don't like. I don't know why we need to explain ourselves.
As long as they're not dead, there's still time to turn these characters around. So maybe this is a warning.
Yeah.
Maybe this is a list of people that they need to write in a different way. Perhaps.
Unless Stephen does miraculously keep on going after tomorrow's episode, I don't think any of what we say at the moment is actually going to happen, but maybe we've got some ideas that are so good, ITV might say, you know what, we're going to go against the usual grain and we're going to do a retcon.
Oh, wow.
And say this idea actually happened.
We spontaneously combusted Gary. It was very weird. No, he's not on my list. I'm
really excited for this. I always enjoy doing the Patreon episodes each month. It's always fun to find out what you've picked and to come up with my list as well. And as I say,
don't forget you can join.
You can if you like this as well.
£4.50 a month.
You can join our Patreon
for the tier that you get bonus episodes. There's over 50.
No, there are not over 50. There are under 50, but only just. We've got 49 Patreon top fives over the past few years. So if you sign up, then if you sign up now, you get 49.
That's over 2 days of solid
you can listen to right now.
Listening for your pleasure. But for now, we're going to go into who's going to go first. Stephen Reid.
I think I would like you to go first today. Ladies first. Who's your number 5 person that you would like Stephen Reid to have killed off?
Right. First of all, I need to explain my thought process because I've got 5 people, but 2 of them are linked, which is I know slightly awkward for counting down to number 1, but I couldn't help myself.
In your list, are your 5 like at the end of this? Are all 5 dead, or is this 5 possibly
There's
individual
3 scenarios?
Stories? Okay.
So
go on then. Number 5.
My first standalone scenario. And I think some people are going to get upset with this one.
Hang on a minute. I'm just slurping my tea. I'm not going to spit it out, am I? Go on, that's right.
I don't think it's it's not controversial for us, but I think there might be some people amongst the fan group who will mourn the magnificent.
Okay. Go on, who is it?
Bonds. Adam.
Oh, Adam! You're going to kill off Adam Barlow.
Because I thought to myself, now what am I going to achieve here? What am I going to get out of this? I thought brings in the Barlows, sets up a Barlow versus Platt fight that properly will ignite the street because you've got a Platt, surrogate Platt, killing off a major Barlow. Okay, it links to Sarah, obviously.
Yeah,
and I'm kind of finding Adam treading water a bit since Sarah's affair.
I mean, lots of people have been treading water through this year. I mean, there's plenty of characters that we've not seen enough of, I think, this year. But I would say that Adam has never particularly been either of our favourites, has he?
Well, we didn't really like Sarah and Adam as a couple for a long time. Then they had their drama and we found them interesting. Just to be sure,
we did really enjoy that Adam and Sarah story earlier this year.
I think all the actors do a fantastic job with what they get given. Okay, listen. I think even some actors might agree, and I'm not putting words in anyone's mouth here that I'm talking about, that their roles could be more significant. So
I just find Adam a little bit.
It's not a reflection on anybody that I don't like their character.
I don't like his cockiness. I think he's the sort of person that if I knew him in real life, he'd peeve me.
Yeah, but we need a few people like that are going to make you prickly. But that's not what this is about. This is about how I get Stephen to kill Adam.
Okay, go for it.
So, the obvious link here is that Stephen was involved in the baby drama.
Yes.
He was the one who interfered with the reveal and forged the note. Sarah found out about it. So, Adam somehow, this is the least fleshed out one I've got.
Okay.
Adam somehow finds out that Stephen got involved in the baby drama. And he twists this in his head that it's actually Stephen's fault that he and Sarah aren't together anymore.
I thought you were going to say that it's actually Stephen's baby.
That would be weird. I haven't gone there, but...
Good, okay.
Okay, so he decides he's going to take revenge, yeah? So he realises after Jenny's asked... Remember Jenny asked him to get involved in the pub stuff when Waterford's got involved and they were trying to sack everybody? And Adam came in and he said he was going to give her a hand, didn't he?
Yeah.
Right. So he gets involved in this, and since this has happened, I'm going to pretend that this week didn't ever happen.
No, that's fine.
Okay?
That's fine.
So in the future, Adam is going through all the pub stuff, and he's realising, as he's looking at this stuff, that Stephen's been up to things, like maybe he's been skimming money out of the till, maybe he's been pretending he's put
very
orders
much in character, yeah.
for stuff that he hasn't.
He accused Cleanser of shortchanging him that time.
Maybe there's a fake employee that doesn't actually exist. So he's realised that Stephen's been fiddling along with this. So he calls Stephen to his office and he confronts him about what his shenanigans have been involved in. And he says, I'm going to ruin your reputation. I'm going to get you fired from the factory. You ruined my life. I'm going to ruin your life. So Stephen hits him over the head with Dee Dee's trophy. Do you remember Dee Dee's?
Oh yeah, she does have a lawyer trophy.
What's it called? Shining Star or Newcomer, Best Newcomer Lawyer Award.
Did you get that idea partly from last night when
I did.
Stephen was gonna? Yeah,
I thought I'd know another trophy that's also significant. He gets knocked unconscious. So then Stephen sets a fire using a candle that Dee Dee's been given from a client for her good work.
Right.
I couldn't think of how
this
to
is your
start
least
fire.
fleshed out one.
Yeah, it is.
Oh my gosh. Okay. I think this is probably more fleshed out than any of mine, but okay,
right?
keep going.
So Dee Dee's done some great charity work or something, and she's been given a candle.
Like a good Christian that she is, yeah.
And so Stephen, because how else do you start a fire in a lawyer's office? I don't know.
I mean, you've seen that lawyer's office. I'm pretty sure that not everything's been pat tested there, and maybe the electrics are ever so slightly dodgy.
There might be. I might come back to electrics in a future story, so I didn't want to use it.
Okay.
I wanted to make sure that each of these kills was a unique thing, something that hasn't been done on Coronation. Well, not necessarily, but I just didn't want to use the same old thing again. And also, I realised that Stephen's kills aren't really themed to anything, are they?
What do you mean?
Well, it's not like, and then he killed Rufus with his business award, and then he killed Leo by...
I mean, Rufus drowned in his own opulence, you could say.
Well, yeah, I know, but anyway. So he sets a fire, uses the candle Dee Dee's was given by a client. Adam regains consciousness, and he's crawling about, but eventually he succumbs to the fumes, and it's all very tragic and sad. And then, when the scene is uncovered, Dee Dee becomes a suspect because it was her thing that was used.
Yeah.
And nobody really knows
and Stephen gets to bludgeon another day.
Yeah. So this is like a mid-Stephen story. Mid Stephen's life.
That sounds good. I think that having a dead Adam would work well for the show, particularly as, like you said, the relationship with Sarah. There would probably be some regret there about the way that their relationship turned. Yes, yeah. Tina O'Brien, very good at crying. We've already seen it in the flash forwards this week.
Yeah.
I think that would be very good, and for her to find out, that it's her uncle that has killed her husband, ex-husband, whatever they are at the moment. Yeah, I like that. She'll
get very upset about it, and then also all the Barlows can be like, you Platts, and literally two sides of the street will be at war with each other, which I think is great.
Yeah, this isn't the first time that we've discussed the idea of the Barlow-Platt feud. I think Scripture Scene on Twitter has been particularly vocal about wanting that
it's
of development.
It's like, the Montagues and the Capulets.
Yeah.
And also, the oldest, very established families, aren't they?
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't really feel like we've ever got anywhere with it. And also, I know that there was a lot of shady business going on within the Barlows, but they're kind of like lawful, chaotic, aren't they? The Platts, they're actually a crime family. I've realised this. They're like the crime family of Weatherfield because they're stealing money, killing people. They're by far the group of people that have committed the most crimes and got away with it, aren't they?
Yeah.
And they're always involved in crimes as well. It's not just perpetrating them, but Kylie was stabbed. Shona was kidnapped by her son. She was shot in a box by a completely different group of people. Trouble follows them everywhere. And so if the Barlows kind of set themselves up as this kind of like, oh, we're so saintly and wonderful, we're all brainiacs and great, and then the Platts are kind of like the awful family of disrepute. I think it would be quite funny for a few years.
Yeah, no, I like
before
that.
we all
I like
forget.
that. So yeah, bonk on the head. Candle fire.
Did you have Adam anywhere?
No, Adam is not on my list.
Okay.
No, he might have been on my he was on my honourable mentions. I'll say that. That's another thing, everybody, that we do on the Patreon. We do our honourable mentions between points 2 and 1.
Right, and also
get out a bit longer.
A lot of girls will cry because he's handsome, and men.
Yeah.
A lot of girls and men who like his beautiful hair and his lovely dashing good looks and his great fashion sense.
That hair's quite a fire hazard, I think, isn't it? All greased up.
Well, we need...
I just thought another way that you could...
some big characters, I think. I think Kai needs to take more risks.
I mean, Stephen has only bumped off minor characters so far. This may be about to change.
It's not unfair to say that's true.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I was just going to say another way of starting a fire in the lawyer's office, something that creates a lot of friction that goes on in the lawyer's office fairly often on that desk.
Bonking? Well, Stephen shags Adam to death? That doesn't make any sense.
No, but that could be another way that the fire starts. There's an awful lot of bonking that goes in the office. I
don't know who Adam would be having sex with that Stephen could walk in on.
Okay, just an idea.
I think you're just putting
maybe candles.
Dirty thoughts in.
Maybe I am. Okay, my number 5... Ready for this?
Nobody dies by snoo in any of mine.
My number 5 is a character that I just kind of think has had enough on Coronation Street, and although I used to like them quite a lot, I think that they need to go. No, I'm not. No, you can't guess because you might have a few in it. It's Mary.
Really?
I'm having Stephen killing Mary.
I don't have her on my list.
I'm just a bit.
How do you pull this off?
I thought, how do I sleep at night?
How do you? I know you. You go to sleep like a baby every night.
I do. My conscience is clear.
Yeah, it
is. I'm fed up of her stories.
We don't need to.
Yes, we do. This is my reasoning behind it. I'm fed up of her stories. She's not. Doesn't strike me as a realistic person anymore. I mean, maybe she never was, but I just feel that I'm getting the same thing again and again and again for Mary. I do like her, but I think that she's run her course. I don't think there's anywhere more for Mary to go, and this would for me be a great shock death.
Will come out of nowhere because she's not involved at all.
No, exactly. So coming out of the blue would be fantastic. I think that murdering a comedy character would be quite unusual as well.
Well, we know
it's like stabbing a clown.
That she can do. What's the actress?
Patty Claire.
Sorry. We know that she's very good at drama. Most of the comedy characters have got a lot of versatility, and they can actually be incredibly poignant. She was great during the
Jude story.
Jude storyline. Yeah. I think she's so talented.
Yeah, I just think that really she gets stuck with being a bit silly and annoying these days, and I think it's time that Mary moved on. I want to maybe get rid of that kind of character.
I prefer her to go off in a camper van into the
I think
sunset.
I would prefer that as well.
Okay.
But I want her gone, and this is my easy way of doing it.
Well, it's fine because we've both been. I don't know if you guys know this. We've both been appointed executive producers of ITV soap.
Oh yeah, we got that job.
So we've actually, this is our mandate. We can do what we like.
I also thought that if Mary died, then
That's not true.
Is it not?
No.
You were talking about Patty being able to do the dramatic scenes really well, and I say, well, so too can Peter Gunn. And with the story that's been running this year, very, very on and off, of him being a bit sweet for Mary, I think this could be the proper opportunity for Peter to show his acting Peter chops as Brian mourns the loss of his beloved Mary, who maybe never got to. To get together.
So you don't want a repeat of the Christmas where he spewed over everybody as a hilarious joke?
No, that I don't want that.
You'd rather have him cry?
Yeah, I want to see the Brian that we saw reading Abby's witness statement the other year.
That was excellent. I'm not sure how that happened or why, but I appreciate what we got out of that.
Yeah. Right, so this is my story idea. This is probably one of my least developed ones. I kind of like it to be a wrong place at the wrong time kind of death, a little bit like Maxine.
Makes sense.
Because there's no real reason, of course, why Stephen would want to kill Mary. Well,
he doesn't watch the show.
Exactly. And maybe he does find her just very, very annoying in real life. But in my idea, this is going to be a bit of a surprise one because Patty Claire in my fantasy has announced that she's leaving, right?
Oh.
But there's a story going on about her reconnecting with Jude, her long-lost son.
So everyone's
thinking she's just going to go off with Jude. So in this story, Jude is back. He's got back together with Angie again after all the unpleasantness that went there. Angie's forgiven him. They're living together in South Africa with baby George. Well, he's not a baby anymore. He's 3, 4, 5. I don't know how long ago it was. So they're a lovely, happy family in South Africa. Jude, George, and Angie. Oh, he's 5 or 6 apparently. So he's old enough to be very cute, and he's got a personality. And Mary falls head over heels in love with him. She's like, brilliant, I'm a grandma, this is everything I want.
Michael, you dick.
And she's saying, oh, Jude says to come over to South Africa, live with us. And Mary's saying, oh, but do I want to make such a big move? I can't decide. I'm going to decide soon though. So she hasn't told Jude that she's coming. But we see her decide that, yes, she is going to go, but she's not going to tell him. She's just going to surprise him by turning up there, okay? So we know she's going. Jude doesn't know for sure that his mum's coming. Mary has to break...
Are we seeing any scenes of Jude and Andrew?
Yeah, why not?
So they're doing
Bring back Paddy and Victoria.
Location shoots in South Africa.
Yes.
Okay, well, the budget's increased.
Exactly. This is fantasy, I tell you. So you wait until some of my later ones. So Mary's got to break this news to Brian, who is dramatically on the cusp of confessing his feelings to her.
But does he have a little card that he has to hide behind his back?
Maybe he's like, Mary, I've got something to tell you. And Mary says, no, let me tell you something first.
And then Brian's like gesturing to like the mariachi band. No, hide.
Exactly. So it's utterly tragic. So she parts ways with Brian on the way to the airport. Now this is a little bit underdeveloped in my head, but she's going to see one of Stephen's misdemeanors. So maybe she sees him slapping
a baby.
No, maybe she sees him killing Leo or Teddy or something. We're back in time.
We're really back far.
Yeah, it depends when this is set in the year. It doesn't matter. Or something. He's done many dodgy things this year. So he's at this point has got no choice but to bump Mary off because she's seen him and he's like, well, sorry, Mary. He bumped what?
Right, does he know? She sees him, but does he see her?
Yeah.
Okay.
So he's got no choice, and whatever she's caught him doing, there's no explaining it really.
So she's just walking alone.
He's gonna bump into her
along the
in the underworld van.
Oh.
Then he's
underworld van.
Yeah.
Is she walking along the road?
Yeah, whatever, maybe.
I'm just asking you.
Yeah, so he runs over her with the van, but then drives off. But then,
oh, no.
Then he tells the police, I saw someone hit her with the van. So he sends the police off on a wild goose chase. Maybe Craig's in charge of the investigation or something. And he's just like, whatever you say, Stephen, I believe you. Mm-hmm. And Stephen manages to get away with it. And that's the end of Mary. And tragically, no. Jude didn't even know whether Mary was going.
And then he's like,
where's mum?
She let me down again.
Yeah.
Oh.
But then, sting in the tail,
right.
Who turns up at Mary's funeral? Her mum.
George.
Her mum. Yeah.
Played by Judi Dench.
Dame Judi Dench.
Yeah.
Playing. Yeah. Or Julie. Is Julie Walters still alive? I lose track of it. Yeah.
Well,
one of the great thesps turns up as Mary's mum. I know she's canonically dead in the show, but she's also been talked about as if she's alive. So yeah, I'm gonna have that. It's tragic that we don't get to see them share a screen together. Maybe they have a little flashback or something. I don't know. But Mary's mum introduced as a character, and that's the end of that. So Mary is my number 5 pick.
One little twist.
Yeah.
Stephen steals the florist van to run her over.
Oh, nice. Okay.
And he throws a rose on her body and then drives off. Just for poignancy.
Well, maybe if it was the florist van, they can trace it to the van and they say, was it Tracy that did it? She has got form for murder.
And she does hate Mary.
Mary would probably wind her up sometimes.
Yeah, and also then we get to see some great Kate Ford acting because she is also often used for comedy. You know, more recently she's been quite dramatic in the Amy storyline, but I would love to see her perform finding out that Mary's dead.
Yeah.
I think that would be a really great scene.
I think that would have quite a big effect because although she winds me up at the moment, I acknowledge that there is an awful lot of affection for her. I think lots of people would be very sad that Mary died. It would be the big death, like the Maxine one, like that. Oh no, not possibly sweet innocent blank. And that would cement Stephen as the ultimate serial killer. I'm not saying it is, but it would help him along the way at least. So that's my number 5. It's back over to you for your number 4. Okay. Who have you picked?
Oh right. I've picked a character that's also fallen out of favour with me.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think many people are massively keen on this character.
Mm-hmm.
Again, there's loads of room for redemption.
Yeah.
But not in my book.
Go on, who is
this person's going to die. It's Chesney.
Oh, Ches!
Yep. There's so much potential to kill off Chesney here. He's beloved child star of the street.
To be honest, with Chesney, you could do a whodunit. There's probably...
Which viewer did this?
Yeah.
Right, not massively popular. He's kind of hangdog. He's a bit of a bummer and a downer, but he does have very strong family connections on the street with the Winters and the... That's it, isn't it? He's the Browns.
Yeah, he's the lone Brown.
He's got 5 kids that are all going to cry and use this as
Joseph
motivation
is a Brown, isn't he?
For all the misdemeanors that they commit in the future. Why not have a young dad dies instead of a young mum dies for once?
Yeah, that's going against the tradition, isn't it?
It is. And let's bring back the burger storyline that was chugging along somewhere and then just got completely lost.
So is this part of your plan?
Yeah, Chesney's supposed to be... he's got dreams, we've heard, of being an entrepreneur and starting a burger business with his Chesburger that he's so talented at, but he has to give up his dreams because of his annoying wife and 5 children.
You know what? I did consider Chesney briefly. He's not appeared on my list. I think I softened a bit towards him. It's not like I love him.
Do you know what it is? It's because he's so... Oh, this is a horrible word to use. Pathetic. It starts to feel like
a puppy here, Gemma.
Because he's got no defences, has he? He's just such a miserable character.
I know, but I didn't like the idea of splitting up that family. I do like Gemma, and I didn't want to heap more tragedy on Gemma's life.
There's a lot.
I've not picked him, so go on. What's your story here?
Right, this is part of my double kill story.
You're not killing Gemma as well, are you?
Let me tell you my number 3, and then this is my number 4.
Yeah.
Then I'll tell you my number 3 after your number 4.
Okay.
But it will be linked to this.
Okay.
So you need to retain this information, everybody. Okay. Stephen realises Chesney's a mark.
What?
Like he's gullible.
Okay.
He can con him.
Okay.
Right, and so he gets involved in this burger business idea, and he pretends that he's got knowledge of the catering trade because he worked for Seven Fellas, and I can't remember who knows that he was just a delivery driver. But he's probably got some kind of he's picked up some lingo like Deliveroo or something when he was there, so he can use some of this information to try to trick Chesney into taking out a loan that they can use to develop the business, using his ex-wife, Gabrielle.
Right. Just before you go, what's his motive for killing Chesney here?
Well, I haven't got to it yet.
Oh, okay, so there is going to be a motive, okay.
You just wait for the story.
So what's his motive in getting involved in Chesburger?
He wants money, he's going to steal it. He's going to steal the...
He must be really desperate.
Take out the loan. Gabrielle's come back, she wants more money.
Right.
So Stephen's saying, all right, we'll get it off of Chesney. Mm-hmm. Okay. So he's going to... Basically, as usual, Stephen has no plan beyond the next 2 weeks. Mm. So he gets Gabrielle to pose as an investor who wants to collaborate with a local business to open a Canadian fusion restaurant. Okay?
Right.
So then he steals the money, and Chesney realises while they're having a meeting in the kebab shop.
Yeah.
So this is Stephen and Chesney. They're talking about the burger. Chesney's coming up with all these questions, and Stephen can't answer any of them because he hasn't actually got a collaborator. He hasn't got any plans. He doesn't know what he's going to do with this money. So all the questions that Chesney's asking him, he's kind of brushing off, and Chesney's getting more and more wound up, and he starts to rant at Stephen, going, "You're stealing from my children. You don't realise what it's like. You don't understand." Because he's desperate to earn money to bring it in for the family.
Yeah.
And during this conversation, we find out some backstory about Stephen.
I want more backstory on Stephen.
He and Gabrielle were trying to have children together, but they didn't have enough money. So his crime spree began in Canada, where he started stealing money to try to pay for IVF. Okay. And he starts saying things to Chesney, like, "You don't know what I do to have children, and you're squandering your precious gift." And so they're getting really heated here. And he accuses Chesney of being lazy and selfish and boring. Maybe that's just me speaking. And Chesney gets really mad, and he hits Stephen on the head with a bottle of sauce.
Right.
Stephen, he kind of wobbles all over the place, gets knocked to the floor.
Yeah.
And as he kind of sweeps across the surface of the counter, and a bunch of stuff falls on the floor next to him, including a knife.
Okay.
Chesney's standing over him going, "Oh, sorry mate, I didn't mean it, just things got out of hand." But he leans over and Stephen leaps up and like slashes him with a knife, and Chesney stumbles back onto the kebab that's still rotating for some reason. I don't know why. And he throws he burns himself. Oh, it's horrible. And he throws a bunch of kebab meat at Stephen, and it's all gross. But he's kind of like stumbling around, his blood going everywhere.
Or is it tomato sauce?
He's getting weak, and Stephen looms over him with a chopping board, and that's the last thing we see. So we know Chesney's been bludgeoned to death with a chopping board.
Oh, but is it like a Pat Phelan and an Andy situation where he loomed over him with a laptop?
There's no reprieval for Chesney.
Okay.
So Stephen,
how is he going to cover up?
Let me tell you.
Okay.
I was just literally about to say.
Okay.
Stephen grabs a load of money, bonus, out of the till and makes it look like a robbery.
Oh, I see.
And he gets away with it until his next kill, which I'll tell you in a minute.
Nice. Okay, that sounds very exciting.
Tragic father of 5 murdered in kebab shop. Burglary.
Yeah. No, I'm not going to say anything. Okay.
Oh, if you've got him on your list as well.
Not going to say anything. Okay, my number 4. So there's a little proviso on this.
Yeah.
This is a character that I really, really like.
Ooh.
Right? But I feel that this character is not used as much as they could be. Now, the only way that I want Coronation Street to take this idea and retcon it as to having happened and maybe make it happen or whatever is if this character is like properly fleshed out, we get a good couple of months of them as part of a storyline, and it's like, okay, I know this character now. Yeah, I loved it. I'm happy to see them go, because the alternative would be for them to be not really used forever and maybe being used for a bit before their murder is better. I am going to have Stephen kill off.
Who is it?
Dr. Gaddis.
I would nearly put Dr. Gaddis.
Did you really?
Because I was like, we need more Dr. Gaddis, but then we would never have her again.
Yeah, I went for it in the end. I love Dr. Gaddis, and it's always a treat to see her on the screen and see what her hairstyle is going to be.
Because I was even, sorry.
That's fine.
I was even scrolling through, and I was like, I was imagining the headlines in like the Daily Mail or whichever one it is that always steals quotes of Twitter, going, Coronation Street fans aghast at the show murdering off cult figure Dr. Gaddis. And I was just imagining.
Yeah. No,
well, I think her hair, you're right.
I think that this would link in with the fact that he has only bumped off very minor characters. Sorry, Susan.
It's a theme.
But she is beloved, I think.
I think more people would say they like Dr. Gaddis than they like Rufus.
Well, yeah, maybe more people would say they like Dr. Gaddis than they like Chesney, or some of the other ones that are coming up on our list. So I think...
I mean, she's definitely more beloved than Leo, and Leo was in the show far more than she was.
Yeah, so it wouldn't be a huge loss to the show, but we would get an awful lot of Dr. Gaddis. That's the proviso.
That's the good thing. And I will say another thing that's in your favour here is that, you know, because she's not a major character, we don't know what her contract is. We don't know what the arrangement is. I assume it's just an ad hoc.
Guaranteed 5 episodes a year.
Well, it might be just an ad hoc thing, and then that means that at any moment they could just stop using Dr. Gaddis, and we would never even get to say goodbye to her. At least this way, we get to. We could have a funeral. I bet you she'd have a horse-drawn carriage because of her beloved status. NHS clapping everybody.
As the funeral,
everyone outside,
as the hearse goes down the road, we're just clapping after.
And then her mum's crying, going, she hated it when people clap for the NHS. She thought it was so hypocritical.
Okay, this is my story, and this isn't particularly a clever one or anything like that, but I am going to link it into all the LSD shenanigans from earlier on in the year.
Oh, I like it.
What happens is, you know, remember that classic episode where Stephen accidentally drugged himself with LSD at the Nipper Snapper launch? Well, it turns out that just sitting on the back row there, we had old Susan Gaddis, who, her and her wife have just adopted a child. So she's like, I'm interested in this product launch. I now have got children to clothe and everything.
I hope Nipper Snapper is LGBTQ friendly.
Of course.
Oh, I don't know.
So she's there watching Stephen going a bit cuckoo on stage, and she recognises, because she's a medical doctor and she knows all this kind of stuff. Hang on a minute, that looks like he's on LSD. And when she sees him later in the week, she's just going to ask him outright, were you on drugs on that? Because everyone else is just thinking that you're
she's a doctor,
gone a bit nuts, but
things.
I think you're on drugs.
Yeah.
he's like, no, not at all. I just feel... I can't remember what excuse he gave at the time, but...
Sometimes people get confused, but I am just Canadian.
Yeah. She says, look, I don't believe... I can totally see through your lies. It's okay. I can't report you because of doctor-patient confidentiality and everything, but he's still denying it, saying, no, I've just been having dizzy spells. Honestly, I'm fine. But she is on the case. She is starting to suspect that he's been taking LSD. So just to confirm it, just because she got this bone that she takes one of his hairs when he gets up out of the doctor's chair. He's left her hair behind.
So she calls him to the surgery for a conversation.
Well, no, maybe he just turns
maybe he's
up
got
because,
waterwork problems.
Maybe, or maybe he's just turned up as a cover because we saw that he was not looking very well at the talk, so he was like, I suppose I better make out that I need some medical attention. I don't know, whatever, it doesn't matter. So she gets one of his hairs.
Maybe Elaine nags him until he goes.
Yeah.
That cow.
And so she tests it, sends it off to get it analysed, because by this point as well, she's also suspected that Carla's on drugs and maybe Stephen's drugged her. So she's the one in my alternate universe that comes up with the realisation that Stephen is drugging Carla way back earlier on this year. Yeah. So this is when we get weeks of Gadas tailing Stephen, trying to catch him out.
Does she get a trench coat?
Yeah, she's hanging about in the Rovers. Everything. She is a main character. She might even have her own little side story that's unrelated to Stephen, but she is the premier, fronts of the page of the soap mag character for that 2 weeks. She's the new hero of Coronation Street Move Over Abbey, and so eventually the hair result. So she doesn't find anything. Eventually the hair results come back, and yes, there are traces of LSD in there. So she calls Stephen to her office, pretending it's just a follow-up from the previous time he came in, but actually she uses it as an excuse to confront him with what she's found out and her suspicions about Carla. In fact, says Gadas, I'm going to go and tell Carla right now what you're up to and that you've been drugging her. Unless you can give me a massive share of the Nipper Snapper brand.
What? She's
Dr.
evil?
Gadas is she's also money hungry. She's just adopted a kid. She needs extra money because
doctors don't
kids
get
are very
paid very much,
expensive.
do they?
Well, Stephen's already stressed out with all the Rufus business and everything, and he's like, no, I can't do that because Rufus is already trying to take these huge chunk of Nipper Snapper, isn't he? So this would leave Stephen with absolutely nothing. He's like, no, can't do it. So Gadas says, right, fine then, Stephen. Gets up to go and tell Carla, and this is when Stephen launches himself at her, and then he pulls out the defibrillator from the cabinet and electrocutes Dr. Gadas with a defibrillator. It can happen, I'm sure. And then that is the end of her. And she ends with a final hairstyle, which has stood up on end. It's probably the only one that she hasn't had so far. And he takes her body out the back and disposes of it in the woods. And that is the end of Dr. Gadas.
So where is she when she gets electrocuted?
The doctor's office. That's why there's the defibrillator there, because...
Oh, there's one in the doctor's office.
Yeah, she's got all sorts. He's probably spoilt for choice. You got your scalpels, you got the hypodermic needles, you got various pills and potions.
I can only imagine the statements that ITV would have to release saying, we understand that they are not dangerous and we didn't want to create a scare over defibrillators. Please stop.
No,
everybody stop vandalising defibrillators.
I was just, for some of my murders, thinking, we've had some pretty goofy murders from Stephen, top of the list being the hole punch, of course. So what could be a silly weapon that Stephen could use to off some of his victims?
I don't know how...
The defibrillator it is for poor Susan.
I don't know how you could do it without it being hilarious.
No, it would be hilarious. That's the point.
I know, but... Yeah, but I think they've skirted a really fine line between drama and comedy so far, but this would just be quite farcical.
I think they could manage it. I trust the acting capabilities of Christine.
I can imagine it. Okay, yeah. I like it. I like that idea.
Thank you.
Good
Sorry,
one.
Dr. Gadas. I know I don't want it to happen, but I think I would sacrifice you for a good, I'm going to say 2 months of juicy, full-on Gadas goodness.
Oh, yeah, and we get to see her wife and her child.
Yeah, I'm desperate to know more about her.
Yeah.
So, anyway, that's my number 4. So your number 3 is connected to your Chesney murder, is it?
It is indeed.
Go on then, who are you doing? Who are you bumping off now?
This isn't a new idea, because I've mentioned this many times on the show.
Is this person your number 3 because you want them dead more than Chesney, or because you had to do the Chesney story first?
I've got to explain. My top 5 is really ordered in how much I like the scenario.
Okay.
Rather than how much I want the character to die.
Okay.
But this one,
I can't think. Maybe mine is as well. Maybe I don't know. We'll see when we get there.
Right, mine is Paul.
See, now I almost did Paul on my list, but I thought, no, I bet Gemma does Paul because she's talked about this before, so I'm going to hang back. So
I've been saying for months that I want Paul to die saving somebody, and I also thought that could tie quite well into Stephen. Now, this is fictional.
Poor Paul.
Please don't get mad. But
kicking him when he's down.
It really linked into Chesney being killed.
Mm-hmm.
Because obviously there's the family link here. Chesney and Paul, they're brother-in-laws now, aren't they?
Yeah.
And my idea is that in sacrificing himself, he gains power, because that's one of the things that he was worried about when he was thinking about dying. I think he's come to peace with it now, and I actually, I'm going to hold my hands up here. Coronation Street, I think, is doing a better job of allowing Paul to die on screen without making it a really tragic and maudlin display.
So far, it's worlds away from Sinead.
I think that this is a much better idea than killing him off, having him sacrifice himself. The physicality, I'm not quite sure about this. I don't want to be offensive to anybody, so I apologise if this is in bad days. But I cannot get this out of my head, so I had to make this my number 3.
Just do it.
Also, I like the idea that Billy is going to be devastated by this, even more so than he would have been if Paul had died of MND.
So if we were writing Corrie history, is this fairly recent then? Are they married? Are Billy and Paul husband and husband at this point? Okay.
But Billy's going to cry about this. He's going to say, I was robbed of the time I had left, which wasn't very much at all to begin with, and he's going to become an evil vicar.
Evil vicar.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure what that involves, but I cannot wait to find out. Coronation Street, please take this idea. No, it's too late.
Tell you what, there's that old guy who came and had a go at them in the street last week. Is he gonna hear about Paul's death and go, I told you?
Yeah.
God's punishing you, Billy.
Probably. Right, so what's happening is Gemma is trying to deal with Chesney's death.
Mm-hmm.
She's overwhelmed. She can't keep on top of everything. She's got 5 kids. She's got no help. And Paul, he's very limited to what he can do, but what he can do is go through her paperwork. Because I think saw scenes where I can't remember who was helping with paperwork, but he said he could do paperwork.
Yeah, he was helping out in the lawyer's office, wasn't he, Paul?
Yeah, so there you go. He's using his skills to help him go.
Skills of picking up and ordering pieces of paper.
Yeah, so he goes through Chesney's things and he finds the paperwork for the loan.
Okay.
And he says to Gemma, what is this? And she does not know. She doesn't know where the money's gone either. So she starts to think that Chesney was having an affair. And so that's where all the money's gone.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
And because she doesn't know anything about this Chesburger stuff. This was all secret because Chesney wanted to surprise her with it because he's an idiot. So Paul isn't so sure, but then he finds a piece of paper with Gabrielle written on it and her phone number.
Okay.
And he's also written on it, Canadian burger ideas, ?
Yeah.
Right? So he's obviously been thinking, I need to think of some ideas for my investor when I speak to her to impress her. But this is very cryptic. Paul doesn't know what to do with this. He thinks about it. There's nothing really he can come up with. But later on, he's outside in his wheelchair and Gabrielle helps him pick something up that he's dropped. And we have just seen a scene before this where she and Stephen are arguing about the money and how they're going to split it up.
Yeah. And
so she stormed off after this argument, and now she's bumped into Paul, who's dropped something. She's like, here you go. And then Stephen comes running out going, Gabrielle, get back here. And he's like, Canadian called Gabrielle, who knows Stephen.
Yeah.
And too much of a coincidence. Mm-hmm. This must be the same person. So then he starts to ask questions to Stephen about who Gabrielle is, because he thinks that Chesney and Gabrielle have been having an affair.
I see.
He doesn't suspect Stephen at all at this point, but Stephen's kind of blowing him off and refusing to answer questions and being really shady, which makes Paul suspicious. So he then starts to put things together and he starts asking, where was Stephen on the night of the kebab shop robbery?
Right.
And Stephen gets wind of it and he confronts Paul in the street, and Gemma's just walking down the road because this is Coronation Street and this
happens to be there.
And he's like, mind your own business. Chesney probably got what was coming to him, and then he walks off, and Gemma follows after him because she can't believe she's heard him slagging off her dead husband.
Yeah.
And Paul follows after them as well, and they somehow they get quite far, like a chain of argument.
Yeah.
And they find their way to the teenage wastelands, and they're having a fight. Hang on, I've lost my place.
You lost your place in your nose. That's all right. It's looking good. Teenage Wastelands. Home of the famous slap on
That's
Nina.
right. They're by a canal, and we find out that Paul's not... Because I was thinking, why wouldn't Paul be able to get in front of everybody? Because he's in a wheelchair that's electric. He can go pretty fast.
Yeah.
But he's been phoning the police and Billy.
Right.
So that's why he's gone a bit slow. Because like a lot of people, when he's on his phone, he somehow slows down.
Yeah.
Very irritating.
Yeah.
So
I'm getting Seb vibes here.
Okay, so the police and Billy arrive just as Gemma and Stephen are fighting inconveniently next to the water's edge. And Paul is in his chair and he's going, stop. And he's like trying to throw things at Stephen to get him, and he can't do anything. And then Stephen gets kind of close to him and he sees his chance. He launches himself out of the chair. He knocks Stephen into the water. He follows behind. They struggle. Stephen hits his head. He drowns.
What?
Paul when he falls in the water, he hits a piece of metal that goes into his side.
Oh my gosh.
And he gets pulled out of the water, and he can die heroically on the side of the canal.
Heroic death for Paul. Yeah.
Telling everybody that he's just trying to help his sister. And Gemma and Billy are crying over him. And then, as he's dying, he says, "Billy, bless me, please help me." And so Billy begins to do his praying, and then Bernie comes along and sees Billy praying over her son.
Yeah.
And she gets enraged, and then we get a feud between Bernie and Billy.
She wants to dangle her crystals over Paul while Billy's doing last rites for some reason.
Yeah. And that's the end of that.
That's the end of Paul.
And that's the whole story.
That's a
the
very
end
dramatic
and
conclusion.
Stephen dies in that scenario. So that's the finale of Stephen.
Wow, well that's not going to happen, is it?
Takes Paul with him.
Right, okay. Interesting.
Thank you.
I like it. Well, this is an idea that's been bubbling away in your head for a while, hasn't it?
Yeah.
So
I've wanted it. I mean, in my mind, I imagined it was a car, because I can only think of, how do you sacrifice your life for somebody else? And me and every other writer who's ever existed all can only think of jump in front of a car, go, no, or a bullet.
Jump in front of a bullet.
And I didn't want to do that because we've already had it a million times, so I thought, why not a canal fight?
Yeah.
Who doesn't love a canal fight?
Love it. I'm sure Peter Ashford would think that's a fantastic
Also,
idea.
we've had lots of great canal scenes. They've got the locations, they know where to go.
Yeah. Very good. I like it.
And you'll go for a drink at the Strawberry Duck afterwards.
Yeah. Right. Good job. Right. Number 3, Gemma. My turn. You
Yes.
ready? You ready for this? Right. So, bit of a legacy character, this one.
Rita.
Let me get on. Bit of a legacy character. So, people might not be happy with this. I know a lot of people aren't going to be happy with this one. But I don't care. So, I think it is time that this character was put out of their misery. So this is going to be a big one.
Gosh.
This is going to be the climax of Stephen's murderous rampage. I'm talking epic death. I'm talking sororicide. I'm talking Gail.
Yes, I knew it.
Gail Rodwell is going to meet her end.
Sororicide, you looked this up.
I did look that word up. Yes, it means killing your sister.
Oh, yeah.
At the hands of Stephen Reed. I just think that would be very, very exciting. We haven't
That's probably the biggest skull he could end up with, isn't it?
I think it is. If not her, then Gail. I mean, we've had...
You mean Audrey?
Oh, Audrey, sorry, yeah. We've had Katie Harris killing her dad before, so there has been a bit of fraternal... no, that's not the word. Brotherly, isn't it? Was it familial murdering? But, yes, so to have someone actually kill their sister, I think that's taken it to the next level. And it could lead to some really brilliant scenes of regret from Stephen. I don't think he'd like
he's
the
gonna
fact...
live on.
Yeah, he's living on after this. This is just part of the story.
Yeah, this isn't how Stephen should have gone. This is how Stephen should have killed.
Yeah. And you were killing him.
Well, I know. I think
but
that sometimes it does. Sometimes if it's like a really inconvenient murder, he kind of has to go with them.
So
he can't get away with it.
Like your Adam one earlier, this could make huge ripples because this is killing off the heart of the Platt family.
Yeah, I don't know.
So it's going to
Michael.
affect Audrey losing her daughter, Sarah, Nick, David, their mum's gone.
Oh, no.
You'd have Sally as Gail's supposed best friend losing her. Tim would be like, I told you that Stephen was a dodgy fella, Sal.
Tim would be thrilled.
Yeah, but I do think that Gail is not she's not what she once was. She's not the strong matriarch of the street anymore. They've turned her into a bit of a joke. She could keep going on the street for another 20 years or so, and I'm thinking, do I want that? Not if they're going to keep her the way she is. If she continues to be batty buffoon Gail, it's like, no, best rip off that plaster now, bump off Gail for the ripples. And to be honest, she's missed 2 serial killers in her family now, so she kind of deserves to be killed off by one. Didn't see Richard, hasn't seen Stephen. She had it coming.
Yeah, it does feel a bit like you're owed it, aren't you?
Yeah.
How can you be so blind?
How do you miss the scenes twice?
Yeah.
Not the scenes. How do you miss the signs? Sorry, twice. You know, fooled me once, etc., etc.
Yeah. Can't get fooled again.
So this is what I'm having for my and this is going to be big budget death because come on, it is Gail.
It's Gail.
It's Gail. She's been in the show for over 40 years.
Who knows? She might want to retire.
She's not going off in the back of a taxi.
No, we're going to kill her off in a horrible. Really in 4K.
Yeah, exactly.
Nice.
So
volume wall?
Potentially, it depends on what the location budget is.
Well, maybe she can drive to a location with the help of a volume wall, because that always works really well.
Driving the volume wall. Okay, so there's going to be a bit of a mystery involved in this one. There's a twist, okay?
Oh, I can't wait. Oh, I'm excited. Go on.
Well,
is this your number 3?
The fact that I'm telling you it's a twist. Yeah, because, I don't really... People I'd rather see the back of than Gail,
to hear your other two.
So, Gail, clearly, she's got no use in this story. She showed up on last night's episode after having barely nothing to do in the past 12 months. So, in my fantasy storyline, she's going to disappear off at the beginning of the year. But she's saying...
She's gone to Thailand.
That is exactly right. Gail says, I'm going to Thailand. I loved it there so much before. That was where I felt at my most zen. Fed up of all the Platt drama. I'm going to Thailand. So viewers at the time would just assume that, well, the showrunners didn't have any idea of what to do with Gail, so they're temporarily putting her there so we don't have to be saying, where's Gail throughout the whole thing.
Yeah.
So she's gone off to Thailand, or so we think. No, actually she has. Sorry, I'm just trying to remember what my actual thing is. She goes off to Thailand. So as the year goes on, we'd had texts from Gail show up on David and Sarah's phones and everything to make out she's having a nice time. She's staying a bit longer and so on. She's living in a commune that's kind of cut off from the rest of the world. So she has to sneak back to civilization to send these texts.
Okay.
Also, we're led to believe.
Right, yeah.
Cue to later in the year, and we're like weeks ago now. Jenny and Stephen are planning to move to Thailand, so it ties into this.
Thailand's in.
Yeah, to this current storyline, and people have already kind of the characters have been saying, "Oh, Gail's in Thailand. You gonna go and stay with your sister, Stephen?" It's like, "Oh yeah, maybe I am." So. Jenny, so in this scene, Jenny's saying, right, we're packing, we need to go, we need to get some currency, we need to go down the Bureau d'Echange to get some Thai currency, the baht, by the way.
Oh, the baht. I knew that.
So I don't know, I don't even know how to pronounce it.
I don't know.
So Stephen's like, yeah, we'll go down to Freshco's, we'll go and get some baht later. However,
I don't know if it's
later on that episode, Jenny's packing away some of Stephen's stuff and she finds a wallet with some Thai money already in it.
No.
Hang on a minute, has Stephen already been to Freshco's to get the money without her?
Or has he been to Thailand?
Stop spoiling my story. I'm glad I'm gripping you here.
I'm excited.
She confronts Stephen and he says, "Oh yeah, I was going past Freshco's earlier. I went and got some. That's
Makes
why
sense.
we've got some already." So they head off to Thailand. So this is where the budget comes in.
Really?
Corrie in Thailand.
Oh, nice.
Starting to unpack.
We're doing a DVD.
Stephen, so Jenny's unpacking her stuff. She's all chilling out and everything in a new home. Stephen disappears off and goes for a walk. And we see him visit Gail's grave. She's been dead all this time. So, flashback time. Earlier in the year, round about when Stephen is murdering Rufus, turns out that Gail is actually
dead.
Listen, Gail is actually Rufus's cleaner, because we know that she loves a good bottoming, and she saw Stephen killing Rufus.
We knew that the cleaner was involved.
No. Well, there was the. They
mentioned it.
No, we see the house.
Yeah, we do see the cleaner, but not in our.
So in my version of Gail's the cleaner. Yeah. So she doesn't want to report.
Hang on. Did we know that Gail was the cleaner, or is this revelation?
This revelation is now.
Okay, right.
Yeah,
I'm with you.
So, not a retcon. It was planned all along.
Yeah.
So not wanting to report her own brother for murder, and also anyway, Stephen threatens to kill Audrey for her money if Gail did report her. Yeah. She decides to start a whole new life in Thailand. She's like, I'm cutting it off. I'm doing it for the good of my family. I'm going to cut myself off. Can't report Stephen. And I quite like Thailand anyway. So that's the reason why she went to Thailand. Not just to get away from it all, but because to stop herself from dropping her dear brother in. Nobody wants their sibling to go down for murder. So he's not convinced, though, that she's going to be able to keep her mouth shut. Don't blame him. So he follows her over Thailand, and she's over to Thailand, and we see that he's like, I don't know, snuck up in the middle of the night and does her in and buries her body. So this is all flashback, isn't it? And at some point during that flashback, we see him with the same wallet that Jenny finds with the money. So the reason that Jenny found the Thai baht earlier on, or later on or whatever, is because that's left over from his original trip to Thailand earlier in the year.
So we get to see this murder?
We get to see it eventually.
Do you know?
But yes, I don't know. No, I haven't actually thought
Maybe
about it.
Maybe he suffocates with the pillows.
Something like that.
It's the way you do. It's the way you get someone to kill somebody when you don't want people to complain too much.
Yeah. So anyway, that's it really. So we think that she's gone to Thailand, but it turns out she's been dead all this time, and then we get the flashbacks. We know Stephen loves a good flashback about how he bumped off Gail. And then maybe we'll say something like before long they decide they don't want to live in Thailand anymore and they come back to Weatherfield to continue their adventures. Or maybe Jenny does and she leaves Stephen on the run, I don't know.
Okay.
So Gail's dead.
Gail's been dead all the time and it's just her annoying ghost and then, been haunting the street.
Eventually the family would kind of think, well, she's obviously gone and lived on a mountain somewhere in this commune that's cut off from all civilization, and now she's just she has no need of her phone anymore, but I'm sure she's having a happy life.
Maybe
little do they know she's 6 foot under.
Maybe she joined a cult.
Yeah, maybe.
Started a cult.
Sounds like the sort of thing that Gail would do, isn't it?
It certainly does. I like that. I like the idea that
I don't want to have to kill off Gail. I'd much rather Gail went back to being a bit less of a buffoon, but I think that just for the sheer drama of Stephen killing off his own sister, it's worth it for me.
I like it.
Thank you.
Good job.
Who's your number 2?
I'm sorry, but I can't.
I wonder if our lists are going to be all completely different.
They probably will be. But I think you've got...
Oh, go on.
I was just going to say, we haven't got the budget to go to Thailand. Can we just do this in Cornwall?
Yeah, just dress it up.
Yeah.
It'll be fine.
We'll
Nobody will notice.
Some Monstera plants out.
Who's your number 2? Come on, I want to know. Who's your penultimate victim?
Okay. I don't think this is a popular character, which is a shame. Because this character, used to like this character. But in recent years, not very much fun to watch. Kind of important for being antagonistic, but...
Okay, I thought I knew who you were talking about then, but maybe not.
Who do you think I was
talking
about?
No, go on. I don't want to spoil. I don't want to spoil anything because it might. It's the one that I've got next on my list.
Okay, right. Okay, so my number 2, person who's going to get killed by Stephen is Beth.
Oh, Beth Tinker.
Okay.
She was definitely a consideration of mine, I'll tell you that, but she is not on my list.
She's involved in this because she works at the factory.
Yeah.
And so she is nosing about. Maybe she wants a promotion. She thought she could get some info. Maybe she was worried that she might lose her job. I don't know, but she's snooping and she finds paperwork that makes her realise that Stephen's been up to some shady dealings. I don't know what they are. That's not my problem. Someone else can sort that bit out. So you just see
the bigger picture here.
You need to zoom out a bit. So she takes this to Craig, who is her son, who works for the police.
Indeed.
And so he takes it to Swain, his boss, who is on the case trying to investigate Stephen. So
we're quite late in the story.
We're around, now, kind of, but not this week.
Right, September, October 23.
We're just imagining Swain's on the case and she says, look, Craig, everything's in hand. You can only mess this up. Don't involve yourself. I don't need your help. I'm this isn't relevant, but don't worry, Stephen's going to be in trouble one way or the other. And Craig ignores her because he doesn't think she's doing anything. Maybe there's a scene where she's chatting when he thinks she should be doing work. I don't know. But he thinks he's cleverer than she is, and that she's not doing what she should be. So he then decides that he's going to involve himself. So he gets Beth to ask some questions to try to make Stephen incriminate himself. Yeah. So Beth starts acting really suspicious and nosy and asking all these weird questions. And obviously Stephen's not stupid. He realises something's up. He calls her to the office and he lays into her and he tells her in no uncertain terms she's asking things that are nothing to do with her, none of her business. She keep her nose out. And she gets really mouthy back and says, I know, you're up to something. And then we leave it there. A few days later, Carla says, oh, we got an order that needs doing right now. Because Michael's messed something up.
Michael.
And so, Izzy, Michael, Beth, you can all work late on this. So, Michael's really upset about this. Stephen's supervising. So you got Izzy, Michael, Beth, and Stephen in the factory after dark. Michael's really like wringing it. You know what he does? He's wringing his hands. I like that
it's an after dark scene.
Yeah. Wringing his hands, being all useless, getting panicky. So Stephen says, hey, Izzy, take... Oh, sorry, that's my alarm for my... I can have milk now. So Stephen says, Izzy, take Michael down to speed dial so he can cheer him up with a curry and bring some back so we can all enjoy delicious food. So Izzy and Michael leave. But Beth doesn't realise that she's been left alone in the factory with her mortal enemy, Stephen. So we get a few atmospheric shots of her in the darkness. Maybe she's singing a little song to herself that's really poignant. And
we saw her having a good sing just before the factory roof collapsed, didn't we?
Yeah.
She liked to sing while she worked.
In my mind, it's kind of like it's all dark in the factory except for like a very kind of precise light over her machine. Yeah. So we see Stephen and he's lurking about. He's staring at her.
This is very atmospheric. I think they could do a good job with this.
He's like standing behind pillars and looking at her, or like going through the blinds of the office and staring at her. And then we see he's
pulling apart clothes on the rack.
Yeah, like between bras, poking out. Then we see he's got a pair of secateurs.
Secateurs.
What is he doing with these secateurs? I do not know. Then we get a shot of an electricity box, and his hand comes into this shot and just turns the electricity off. Okay.
This is fun.
We see the outside of the factory, all the lights go off.
Yeah.
Back inside, Beth's there, she's trying to work, the machine stops working, the lights go out, she stops. Suddenly, she becomes aware that she's alone. Yeah. She hasn't realised because she's been so engrossed in her work. Suddenly, she's scared because she wonders, Izzy? Michael? Stephen, Mr. Reed, is he the only one left in here with me? She starts to panic, and then she hears a scuffling noise, and she's looking around. What's happening? Where's everyone else gone? Why have the lights gone out? Then the lights come back on.
Is she
She's
dead?
like, phew.
Oh.
Goes to touch her machine, cut to the exterior of the factory, the lights fizzle in a big pop.
Electrocuted on a sewing machine.
Cut. Break. After the break, Michael and Izzy arrive with their curry, and Stephen's like, oh my god, call an ambulance, I don't know what's happened, don't come in, don't touch anything, Beth's been electrocuted. And that's the end of that part.
Oh, that's great. I love that idea.
So he had to turn the lights off so that he could fiddle with the electricity and then turn it back on again.
Yeah, I love it. I mean, I certainly wouldn't be adverse to Beth leaving the show. She does get on my last nerve sometimes.
I'm not like, I don't hate Beth, but I just was trying to think of who could Stephen kill.
Yeah. No, that sounds good. That's exciting. I used to like Beth a lot more than I do now.
I'd be more than happy if they reverted Beth back to
exactly
how she was before.
Yeah. But if not
kill
for the
her.
chop last. Mm-hmm. Lovely. Okay, right, on to my number 2. And this is quite interesting, really, because although this is a character that you haven't bumped off, both the character and the location linked to 2 of your previous stories.
Okay.
It's Craig.
Is it Craig?
It's Craigie. I'm killing off Craigie.
Oh, no.
This one was one that I was slightly hesitant about putting on because I was thinking, is there a possibility that Craig could actually get killed off this week? I thought, no, they're not going to do that. So I think I'm safe just to come up with a story about how he could have been killed. Mm-hmm. Really, it's sad. He's just become a bit of a joke character over the years, hasn't he? I didn't want to put Beth and Craig on, you see, and Craig just beat her to the post. Okay. I just think that, the thought of him climbing the ranks in Weatherfield Police and becoming a sergeant and an inspector and everything, it doesn't bear thinking about.
Okay, the problem is they haven't done any work for us to have watched this boy make... We've watched him grow from a boy to a man, okay? And along the way, he's made a lot of mistakes because that's what happens when you grow up. But if you want us to take him seriously as a police officer, we need to see a level of competence that has not been demonstrated up until this point.
No. And even this week when he saw Teddy's body and he was like, he's going to throw up.
But fiddling around with, like, what was it, walking sticks and learning how to do plumbing so he could rescue his girlfriend from being arrested for murder. Not really demonstrating his competency as a cop.
I can't believe he's still a detective. Get him back in uniform, honestly. But I think we need to sadly put Craig out of his misery. And I think that Beth could be really good. Lisa George does fantastic.
I think she'd be excellent.
When she came, because Craig is her life.
I know.
Maybe less so now, but before she was such a protective mother, wasn't she? And Craig meant everything to her, and I think that she would
even
be
has a C around her neck, doesn't she?
Yeah, exactly. She would do such a good job. Lisa George was of mourning her little Craigie, and I think that Craig does obviously fit nicely into this story, being police officer and everything. He's the one that found Leo's corpse. So
did he?
Yeah, kind of.
No.
Well, he was investigating it.
He just seems to turn up at the crime scene and go,
no, that's a bit scary.
Yeah.
Didn't tell me about this in the training. Anyway, I haven't got a particularly developed story about how Craig's going to be off. Sorry, Craig. But for whatever reason, he gets wind of the fact that Swain and everybody are onto Stephen. So this is a little bit before, so when Swain was going solo with this
kind
investigation.
Kind of like what I just said.
Now, Craig wants to prove himself as Weatherfield's greatest detective, so he decides to take it upon himself to take on that investigation and say, right, I'm gonna get in there, I'm gonna steal some thunder from Swain, and everyone's gonna laud me.
Maybe
and so on.
Swain, maybe there's a meeting and Swain makes fun of him.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
So anyway, he's supposed to be keeping things quiet, but he's like, no, I need to investigate this, and I want to tell my mum and everything. So because I don't want my mum working for a serial killer, so I better go round and tell her.
She'd get mad.
So he picks up the phone to ring up his mum. He's like, Mum, I'm gonna come round your flat. I've got some really big news to tell you about Stephen.
You better get a set.
Yeah. Now Stephen just so coincidentally happens to be there while he's making this phone call. What are the chances?
I just love the way we criticise and slam Corrie so much for their coincidences, but we're just totally happy to use them.
have purposely put in some coincidental appearances because it just gels in so nice with this storyline. Yeah, so anyway, Stephen overhears him saying I've got some news about your boss, Mum. Stay where you are. So that night, Stephen tracks Craig, follows him over to where their flat is, but as they go past the kebab shop, Stephen's like, it's now or never, I've got to do something, I've got to stop him from going to see his mum, gets up behind him, bit of a run up, and launches himself into Craig. They go crashing through the kebab shop window, and then we have a bit of a kebab fight. A little bit like yours earlier.
Yeah, I like it.
So whole place gets smashed up. Ketchup bottles squirted everywhere. Ooh. I can't believe we came up with... We both obviously clearly want there to be a murder at the kebab shop.
I think it's about time.
It is. Is it the only location where there hasn't been one? I don't know. So there's meat skewers thrown about like darts.
Oh, I like this.
People being pushed onto the hot grill, like you said.
We also, that way, if you've got people throwing sauce around, you got a bit of an easy way of getting out of why is there blood? Ofcom. Yeah. Ofcom's asking.
It's just ketchup.
It's ketchup actually.
Ketchup and chilli sauce. Yeah. So anyway, massive fight. It kind of reminded me. I was thinking of the the brawl between the bride and Elle Driver in Kill Bill 2.
25 years old, is it?
What? No, it's not. It's 20 years old.
Okay,
Kill Bill
still.
is this year.
I knew it was an anniversary that made me upset, but I couldn't remember what it was.
Anyway, so the coup de grace different from yours. Stephen is going to wrench the whole kebab stick off of the wall.
No.
And he's going to whack Craig round the head with a giant doner. He's going to go bouncing off of it, crack his head on the kebab counter, and fall dead to the floor.
That's what he would have wanted.
And that is the end of Craig. Yeah, he's been going through this weight loss journey, but in the end, it was the kebabs that finished him off. And so that's it. Stephen disposes of the body. Now, in your version of the fight, he blames it on an armed robbery.
Yeah.
I've tied it just into more of a recent story, and he's going to get the kebab bottle and write, Ardy was here.
Yes, yes.
Because, to tie into that whole snow globe thing from the other week.
And Ardy's got no leg to stand on.
Exactly.
He's got a form.
Yeah, so Stephen frames Ardy for the break-in. And maybe the murder as well. I haven't really thought that one through, but why not? And
Courtney won't stand by him.
And that's the end, and probably the whole Weatherfield police just collapse without the loss of Craig.
I think they turn up and go, well, this is a cut and dry case. And they're like, Swain, if you got an alibi, and she's like...
Right, I'm going to say that I'm with you, McKinnon. McKinnon, you say that we also had Abney with us.
Yeah,
and all of the proper detectives are going to go, right, we didn't know anything about this.
Somebody's just solved a problem.
Yeah.
And we don't care if we help them get away with it.
Yeah, maybe that's just the alternative version. If it's not Stephen killing Craig, we just got all the other detectives from Weatherfield police station just get together to say he's letting the side down. He's making us look bad.
Let's all kill him.
Yeah. But it's Stephen. It's Stephen.
That's an alternative.
And that is my number 2. So we've got one left. I'm really excited to see who you've got. And we might end up having somebody different, but I'm quite certain about my number 1. It is honourable mentions time though, Gemma.
That's right.
I came up with a list.
Have you got any ideas for okay, yeah.
Have you got some honourable mentions?
Sorry, I interrupted you.
Yeah, no, what don't you have ideas about how they're going to be killed up? No, I don't. I haven't thought that.
So what's your list of
victims? Honourable mentions for me. I did have Beth on the list, like I said. I did have Chesney on the list. I did have Paul on the list. I had Adam on my list. So that's quite cool that I ended up not choosing them and we still got to discuss them. I've put Simon on the list because I don't think that the Corrie's going to lose that many viewers if poor Simon gets bumped off. Don't think anyone would really notice. Maybe that's it. Stephen kills him, and months go down the line. He's like, I can't believe I got away with it. Nobody's even noticed. He's dead.
Nobody's even asked where he will. I mean, that would be good because he's obviously got a link with Carla and Peter.
That's what I was thinking. Yeah.
Overhears something and decides to take things into his own hands.
I wouldn't shed much of a tear if Stu were bumped off by Stephen. No particular method here, but he's not my favourite character at the moment. Yeah, and just for the lols really, and to tie into Stephen's killing off very, very, very superfluous characters. I say I'm going to have him, in my honourable mentions at least, killing off Kung Fu Jerry. Because he was brought into the show and it seemed like he had a purpose a few months ago, and above just teaching Elaine yoga, but no, he's come and gone and that's it.
It feels very much like my own life where I thought I had a purpose and a reason for being here, and gradually that's just...
You've been put on this earth to produce nearly 600 episodes of a podcast, Gem, and you're doing a damn fine job.
So far.
Who's on your honourable mentions list?
Okay, I've got Gary on my list because I thought they could have a villain off.
Oh yeah, that's a nice idea.
I think if Gary was on Stephen's case, there might be some real tension there as to who's going to come out on top.
Well, I think it would be quite cool and maybe a bit of a stalemate situation if Gary finds out about Stephen being a murderer and Stephen finds out about Gary being a murderer.
Because I still don't think that Gary's really been...
No.
That just kind of went nowhere. I mean, to remind people who maybe have forgotten, he did kill Rick Nealon in the woods. He said it was self-defense. We never saw what happened. I'm still convinced that there's more to that story.
I think it's gone, especially with R. Kelly
it's gone. It's fine.
Travelling in time and space.
But we could bring it back.
We've also got Rana, of course, that Gary is responsible for the death of.
Yeah. He hasn't been taken to task for it.
Okay.
We know that he would fight dirty. The thing is about him going after Stephen is that he's not really up to much. I'm genuinely not being horrible about him, even though I always am. He's not a villain. He can't fight dirty. He's not going to do anything really questionable or unpleasant to him.
Gary would.
If Gary's going after Stephen, you're thinking these two guys are both prepared to do anything. I would really have liked to have seen that, and maybe we can save Gary, and that was an idea that we could come to in a future storyline, because I really like the idea of Gary maybe redeeming himself for the crimes that he's not really been taken to task over by sort of using his villainy for the powers of good. But,
okay, nice. Okay, who else?
I've got for shock value, and they should not do this, Daisy, because Daisy is the most popular character. Everybody loves her. She is beautiful. She is talented. She's Corey's biggest star, which worries me, because I always think that when you're young and beautiful and talented, you're probably quite tempted to use Corey as a springboard and go off and do other things, like Michelle Keegan did. She was killed off on Corey quite spectacularly, and ever since she's had a brilliant career. Now, could this happen with Charlotte Jordan?
So Daisy would be the Maxine in this storyline.
She would be. She'd be the beautiful young victim, everyone's perfect favourite victim, young white woman being killed by an evil Canadian? I don't know. But you get the idea, right?
Yeah.
That would cause headlines. People would melt down on Twitter. If you want a reaction from fans, you're going to get it. Daisy's probably the biggest name on Corey that you could kill off.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Quite possibly.
I don't know how or why.
No, it doesn't matter. We don't need to come up with ideas for
and
the
then,
honourable mentions.
Just because I don't like either of them, Courtney and Lauren.
Yeah. Fair dues.
Just kill them more.
Yeah, say no more with that
They
one.
could just be in the wrong place at the wrong time. They both look like they spend all their time in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Okay, right. It is time for you to reveal your number one. Now, is your number one, before we reveal who it is, is this is still based on the storyline you come up with, and not this is the character that you most want to see the back of? Do you want to see the back of this character? Do you kind of want to get him out the door?
I'd be... I always feel more sad than I expect to when a character dies, even if they're not a major character. If they're a regular,
I know.
I always think, oh, no.
I feel a bit guilty for hating
Why
on them.
did I hasten their demise with my thoughts and prayers? I think this character's got potential, but I also think that my story is quite exciting.
I can't think who it is. I don't know. Go on, tell me.
Very disappointingly, it's Craig.
Oh, we both had Craig on our list.
And also in a kind of similar way, because you had him investigating, and so do I. I mean, what else is he going to do in his life?
Oh, so, that's all right. How's your version of this? Sorry, Craig.
Sorry, Craig. We pick up after the death of his dear old mum.
Huh? Beth. Oh, yes, you did kill Beth, didn't you?
I killed Beth off. I thought that would be a bit of a giveaway.
Yeah, you'd done a double tinker.
I tinkered him out.
Yeah, you did.
The tinkers are dead.
Yeah.
Right. So he has recruited his mum to try to bring Stephen down. Now his mum is dead. That's not a coincidence. He knows that Stephen's killed her, but he can't prove it. He tells Swain about his suspicions, but she thinks he's, being hysterical. So she brushes him off because they've investigated it. It was just an accident. It was just a power surge that electrocuted her at the thing. Maybe Carla's got a fine. Who knows? So Swain doesn't believe that this is linked at all to her investigation, and she tells Craig to back off. She's really sorry what happened to his mum, but it wasn't Stephen. But later on, she finds him in the police station, and he's going through a bunch of files on Stephen that he shouldn't be looking at. Mm-hmm. So she has to fire him, and now it's time for Craig to go rogue. So this is his redemption as a character, because when he was
the town vigilante,
he's going to be a vigilante, and he's going to actually do some proper detective work. Or maybe. No, he isn't actually. He follows Stephen around. He's always there. He's like It Follows. He's menacing him. He's staring at him. He's physically quite intimidating. Stephen's pretty big too, but I wouldn't like Craig following me about staring at me. He begins to start drinking. He's getting belligerent. He's unpleasant to be around. He starts to lose all of his friends. He starts alienating people. People start to sympathise with Stephen because he's the victim here. He's the one that's being harassed. Even Roy's starting to say, I think you're getting a bit obsessed here. I think that you are fixating on something. I don't think Stephen was responsible for Beth's death. It was just a horrible, tragic accident in the workplace that wasn't her fault. So, we see Craig breaking into the factory one night, and we then don't get to see what he gets up to or what he finds, but we just see him breaking in, and then we kind of forget about it, because that's the gift of Coronation Street fans, is that we've got a little bit of amnesia. Later on, we see Stephen getting into a taxi that he's booked in advance.
Right.
So they knew that he was going to get into this taxi. Peter's driving. He locks the doors.
Ah.
He takes Stephen to the factory. Craig's waiting for him.
Yeah.
It's another nighttime scene. Craig confronts him with the evidence that he's got. These secateurs, they've got Stephen's fingerprints on them. He knows that Stephen used those to sabotage the electricity. Stephen's like, "You're being ridiculous. This is stupid. Peter, you can't believe this is true." And Peter's like, "Yes, it is, because I know that you drugged Carla with LSD and you're a psychopath. I'm completely on his side." So then Stephen lunges at Peter and he hits him with this trolley of fabric. Because they're everywhere there. Crushes Peter against the wall because he can't push the knickers away from him. It's not strong enough. He's there. He's collapsed. Meanwhile, Jess turns up.
Oh, if it's a Jess.
Jess is worried about Craig. He's sent her a cryptic message. She knows he's spiraled into despair. She knows he's become an alcoholic and he's obsessed with Stephen. When she gets this alarming text, she's got no choice but to go there in her police car to try to stop him from doing anything crazy. So she jumps out of her police car, she leaves the door open, she comes running up to the steps. She gets knocked to the floor as the door bursts open because Stephen is running out after having pushed Peter over.
Yeah.
He runs down the steps. Craig's in hot pursuit. Stephen gets into the cop car that's been left with the keys in the ignition.
Right.
Jess, you idiot.
This is a great story.
Craig is like, "Oh no, Jess is on the floor," so he's distracted momentarily.
Yeah.
Stephen backs the car up to the bistro, so he's facing down towards the Rovers, and then Craig runs into the street to try to stop him. The Platts in their house, they're having a Platt chat, they hear this commotion, they come running out into the garden, just as Stephen guns the car and runs Craig over. Okay? Audrey lunges towards them and Stephen freaks out and turns the wheel, crashing the car into the Rovers where he dies in a collapse.
In the Rovers.
All the Platts are watching. Craig is dead on the floor. Audrey's freaking out. The Rovers is a pile of rubble. Stephen's dead. Waterford's sells the Rovers to Jenny for a cheap price. Then we get the Rovers back as it used to be. And everyone's happy.
I believe 2 of your scenarios had Stephen getting killed in them.
Yeah, I mean, I was kind of going for Endgame.
Yeah, no, I wasn't at all. He lives in all of them.
Well, I was thinking, how can he get away with... I really wanted to have somebody get run over with a car.
Yeah.
And then I thought, wouldn't it be brilliant if Craig got run over with a police car? And then I thought, but how could Stephen really do that without getting in trouble?
You had a really good scenario. I enjoyed that. That was great stuff. Okay.
I liked writing it.
Love it.
Sorry, Craig.
There you go.
You're definitely
You
dead.
did a good job with that. Okay, my final character then.
Who is it?
This is somebody that I'm surprised hasn't come up really, and maybe even in your honourable mention, because this is a character that would really be happy to see the back of. Well, not really happy. That makes me feel bad. But if this character left, if this actor announced that they were going to be going, I'd be like, oh well.
Who is it?
I've just had a bit of enough of them. This is quite a legacy character as well. So it's enough to be a shock value.
I can't think of who it is.
It's Kirky.
Kirky!
I'm killing off Kirk.
Oh no!
Yeah, sorry, Kirk.
Oh no.
You're just not as funny as you used to be. The writers, I think Kirk used to not be quite so dumb. He's become far too much of a caricature. He's over 40 now, but he's still acting like he's, well, not even 14, maybe 4. I just don't think that he has a place on Coronation Street anymore. And he never gets any big stories, does he? They even had the story of him and Beth splitting up earlier this year, which fizzled out
really
into nothing.
Anywhere.
So I don't think it'd make huge ripples in Coronation Street storylines if he were to go.
Sad but true.
But I'd want him to go out in a funny way. So I've got a kind of comedic story, comedic exit for him. I'm sure I'll butcher it when I'm explaining it to you because I'm not the world's greatest comedian.
Well, I mean, the thing is about Kirk is that I think we would all love him still if he had good writing, but
that's kind of the theme.
I
mean, I said that for Gail, I said that for Craig, said that for Mary.
Was there someone who used to work on the team who could come up with good Kirkisms or what?
I don't know.
Because they've just fallen off.
Yeah, I just roll my eyes every time he opens his mouth now, honestly.
You cringe.
So, this is my story. Kirk somehow manages to rumble Stephen's plans during that whole takeover of the factory story earlier this year. So we're going back 6 months or so for this.
Okay.
And he's... Oh no, sorry, that's not the right way. He doesn't find out about it. Sorry, he doesn't rumble them. He keeps spoiling them. I don't know what
okay. He sabotages by accident.
Accidental sabotage. This is the comedy of Stephen finding Kirk unwittingly being a thorn in Stephen's side. I think could be quite funny.
Yeah.
So, for example, during the vote of no confidence on Carla thing, Kirk accidentally fills that out wrong, like he ticks no because he thought that's voting for how much confidence you have in Carla or something like that. And Stephen's like, curses, you fooled me again accidentally. And the whole teacup thing, maybe Kirk accidentally trips up and spills the tea everywhere just as Carla's about to take a sip.
I mean,
or maybe Kirk accidentally takes Carla's cup with the LSD and drinks it himself and nobody can tell the difference because he's
that's what I was going to say. He can't even tell the difference.
He can't tell the difference when Kirk's on LSD and you can't.
Yeah.
So there'd be a variety of scenes like that where Stephen's about to do something and Kirk just gets in the way and Stephen gets totally fed up with this and he tries to sack Kirk for his incompetence at just general working at the factory, but everyone goes on strike as what one is wont to do at Underworld. So Stephen says, right, the only way I can get rid of this perennial nuisance is to bump him off and make it look like a believable accident in the workplace. So then there'd be plenty of scenes of Stephen trying to kill Kirk, but
goodness.
Kirk has got no idea what's going on but somehow manages to avoid danger. So like Stephen's going to push a pile of boxes on him and Kirk just kind of walks off and accidentally misses the landslide. Or maybe Stephen tries to run Kirk over with his own van and Kirk's there ready, almost about to be run over, but he spots something inane off of the side and he walks over and Stephen misses him.
Like he thought it was a hummingbird, but it turns out it was just a moth.
Stephen tries to get him to slip up, but he puts some liquid on the floor at the top of the steps of the factory or something, on the top floor, and Kirk is up there and he's just about to slip on it, but then he realises his shoe's untied and he bends down. And he's like, oh, there's a wet patch on the floor there. Better put a sign on there. So, however, Stephen is trying to bump off Kirk in comedic ways, Kirk unwittingly avoids death.
It's kind of like a Tom and Jerry cartoon.
Basically, yeah. So in the end, Stephen ends up making a little trail of mini cheddars for Kirk to follow because we know that he loves them. And this trail of mini cheddars is going to lead him up to the roof where Stephen is going to emerge from the shadows and just give him a big old shove off the roof, and Kirk tumbles through the air and lands on his bonce on the floor below.
He doesn't need
But it's all right because he's landed on his head, so it doesn't make any difference for him. So he survives for a little bit and he just kind of brushes himself off. He's like, oh, Stephen, I didn't see you up there. I'm okay, don't worry, I'm all right. He's got no idea that it was an accidental push. Sorry, he thinks it was an accidental push from Stephen. He's like, oh, don't worry, Stephen. So enraged, Stephen comes down and offs. This is going to be a bit like Tina's murder, where she goes over onto the street and then Rob has to finish her off. So maybe Stephen comes out of the factory and suffocates Kirk with a massive pair of granny pants or something.
Nice.
And
that's how he would want it to go.
Exactly. And then he gets packed up into a box and Stephen drives him away in the Underworld van to dispose of his corpse, probably in some kind of comedic fashion. So yeah, I wanted to keep the comedy element there, and I think that Stephen just getting more and more frustrated with Kirk first foiling his plans without realising it, and then avoiding death without realising it. I think that could be quite fun to see.
So you're envisioning Kirk as this sort of Weatherfield Rasputin?
Yeah.
Yeah, he just cannot die.
Yeah, exactly.
I like it.
But fate reaches him in the end.
Yeah, just like Rasputin. I mean, I've seen the similarities for years between those two.
So that's it. That's our top 5.
I think that was good.
I thought that was a lot of fun. I do want, just before we finish, want to give a shout out to a few listeners. We had some listeners on our Patreon say, because we always also post on our Patreon what's coming up as our bonus podcast. Navdeep says, also a vote for Kirk here. We don't have stories here, just some votes. Navdeep says, I don't think anyone would miss hearing his endless mumbo jumbo. Sorry, Kirk. Rebecca has also voted for Kirk, but also Chesney. Yeah. Dom. I don't think I need Stephen to waste a kill on Dom. I think he'll be gone before long. And Mary, Rebecca says. So yeah, me and Rebecca are on a similar wavelength.
Can I just say, a lot of these characters are sort of gormless or comedy.
Yeah.
I think that's just a weakness of Corrie, which is weird because, Ian McLeod came in saying he wanted
return to classic Corrie comedy.
And it's not worked for some of these characters.
Yeah. Rebecca also just wants Kate Connor to come back so Stephen can finish her off as well. Nancy has voted for Craig. Emma, she sent us too because she didn't realise at first that it was... characters who weren't related to the storyline, so she's got a few that are. She's voted for Audrey and or Gail, but I mean, I don't think that Gail has got any chance of being killed off, which is why I was fairly safe in putting her on my list. But Audrey, who knows? Elaine, she said she's got a massive target on her. We've said for a while, so I wouldn't vote for her. And Faye. And Craig as well. So Faye's going to come back and get killed off. Craig, she says, again connected to Tim, Craig. But involved in the investigation, so also relevant and also not a big loss to the show.
Got a target on his back.
She says, I can't put Sarah Louise down because I feel like I've grown up with her, but I can certainly see our argument that we talked about on the podcast a few weeks ago about why she would be a good hit. Then she emailed back later and said, just realised that it's people that he has no chance of actually killing, so she's ended up with Sean, Simon, Stu, Izzy and Kirk. So if we're tallying up the votes here, Kirk's
in danger.
I'm afraid, you are in danger there.
I can't imagine.
I think that Craig and Audrey are absolutely fine to have on these lists because I do not think that either of them have got any chance.
Kirk and Audrey, Gail and Audrey.
Craig and Audrey.
Yeah.
No chance that they're going to be bumped off this week. And Gail.
I'm holding out hope that there will be a surprise kill of somebody who's completely unrelated.
Yeah. We're putting this up on Thursday evening, so as of now...
Which is dicing with death.
It really, really is. I wanted to do it this week while the iron's hot and everybody's talking about Stephen. I wanted to have a special Stephen-themed episode.
11.
And I didn't have any other ideas for this week, to be honest. But... I hope that Coronation Street doesn't end up killing any of these characters and then makes our list look stupid. But for the time being, at least,
that's our
prediction. Our victims are still alive, and those are our predictions. So there we go.
Not really predictions, are they?
No, not at all. Our predictions.
They're imagination fantasies.
Yes. I hope you enjoyed that, listeners.
Did you like that, everybody? What's your favourite? If you got any ideas of your own?
Yeah. Send us your ideas about fantasy. Killings from Stephen. How could the story have been different to get rid of somebody who you'd kind of like to see the back of?
If they're too detailed, we will forward them to the police.
Yeah, exactly. We'll repeat our notice, I guess, request, whatever, as we said at the beginning of the episode. If you'd like the format of these top fives and you're not one of our patrons, you can sign up by going to patreon.com/conversationstreet. I feel so bad saying this, but what the heck?
Plug.
This is a plug.
We
don't do
really
it loads.
Good
this is a
there,
plug for our Patreon. If you're on the Bistro tier, then as soon as you sign up, you will have immediate access to all 49 of our existing top fives, and I'm going to say there's some good ones there. There's a few that are fantastical ones.
There's one like how would you use the volume wall, which is one of my favourite ones we've done.
Yeah, and how would we want Coronation Street to end?
Yes.
We've done before.
Yeah.
There's an awful lot of like looking back about favourite barmaids, favourite murders, favourite
characters.
Yeah, most recently or fairly recently, watery moments.
Watery moments was a good one. So that went down very well.
I really enjoyed doing our top fives, and if you enjoyed listening to this and you like the idea of people on the internet like top fives and tens and things, don't they? That's a thing.
Yeah.
YouTube loves it.
Yeah.
So anyway, go and sign up for our Patreon if you want to. You don't have to.
You don't have to. You can carry on listening to our normal show for free.
Yeah.
We'll be returning this weekend with our thoughts on Stephen's final week.
We will.
So tune in at the weekend.
Well, presumably final week. We don't know for sure. We know that he's going. not 100, and I 100% honestly can say I do not 100% really for sure know that this is his final week, but yes, it is certainly feeling this way. And no doubt, if it is his final week this week, we may well be doing a character profile of him fairly soon as well. So, thank you for listening, everybody. Nice list, Gemma. Thank you for preparing
Michael,
that.
I liked yours. They were good.
And yeah, like Gemma said, we'll be back just in a few days' time to give our reactions to the drama of Friday. But until then, goodbye from me.
Goodbye.